Welcome to another episode of the Chronicles of Mr. I'm Mr. Pierre, and I am joined by Mrs. Morales, an excellent educator who I had the honor of working with back a couple of years. Itan, how are you? And good morning.
Hi, good morning. It's so nice to be here with you.
Oh, thank you. It is a joy. And another coworker of ours, Miss Chimawa, who I had the pleasure of speaking to a couple of days ago. I felt like we didn't get the full, or I didn't feel like I got the fullness of being able to work with you with more than just that little bit of time that we had at California Collegiate. So I'm really happy that we're still able to every now and again catch up.
Yeah, definitely. It was very short lived, but it was like some of the best experiences together. Even though it was short and online,
Yeah,
it made like a really big impact, honestly. So I'm just
agreed.
glad I got to meet the people that I got to meet and, learn from everyone at California Collegiate.
For sure. I guess we can start at the beginning. Like, what sort of brought you into education?
So originally, I thought I wanted to be a lawyer when I was like a senior in high school. I think I really enjoyed a class. I think it was world history and just talking a lot about social justice. And I guess my perspective in high school was like that the only way that I was able to do something about all the issues that I was actually like learning about and really digesting was like through getting into the legal system. So that was what I thought. Um, and like my mom always encouraged me, like, you like defending people all the time, and you're really good at talking and giving, like, playing devil's advocate or defending what's right. And her being a part of a workers union, like, really, and seeing her in like the trenches, as you can say, it really inspired me when I was in high school. Just seeing her working like literally and not being scared. So I thought that's what I wanted to do. And being in college and taking classes and joining groups, I found out really quickly that it was not where I wanted to be. It was a very tough space for like someone like me to be in. Like,
Okay.
and what I mean by that, it was just I didn't feel a connection to a lot of the folks that I was, working with at the time, or like even like students and student programs. I didn't feel connected. I felt isolated, and they weren't there for the reasons that I was there. So I didn't feel right. So, in college, I tried out this program through America. No, first, yeah. I tried out this program called Jumpstart through AmeriCorps, and it was working with, and it was just random. It was like somebody told me about it, and they were like, "Oh, there's this program you can do like a work study at the university, and you get to work with kids." And I was like, "Oh, that's easy. I've had younger siblings. I've taught them to read. I can do this." So I did the program for a year. I really loved the partnership with parents because when they're younger, I think they were like kindergartners. It was just like there was a lot of parent involvement, and I really loved that. I started really getting into like that. Oh, I can do something about the injustices in education.
Right.
There was like it was in Santa Ana, so it was underfunded, underserved community. Working with young children, working on their literacy skills. And I recognized how much of a need there was, even at a young age, even something like kindergarten, where kids they didn't really know the alphabet, or they were having trouble with like a lot of different things related to literacy. And that's when like my journey started. I knew I didn't want to work with young kids. So then the next year I tried academic advising through another program called EAOP. And I fell in love with working with high schoolers. Like, I think it was just like feeling seen and connected with like the other people I was working with. Also other people of color who were there for like some of the same reasons. The students weren't like that much younger than me. Like it felt like I was working with my little brother and little sister. And that's how I saw a lot of the kids, while I was a college student, I saw those kids who were in high school, like a part of my community. So it was just very natural. Once I started getting into the hang and swing of things, like it felt right. And then that's when I decided to apply to Teach for America, my senior year of college. So
Okay.
that's where my journey started.
Dope, dope, dope.
Long, but you know.
No, I think many of us who are still in the profession recognize that it isn't like a direct. There are a lot of folks who maybe they had a mom or dad or whomever was a teacher, and so they became a teacher to follow in their footsteps. But there are some of us who, like myself included, that we sort of got here through a different path and we're still in it.
Yeah, and I really didn't have an idea of how, like, what I wanted to do. I just knew like I wanted to go to college because nobody in my family had gone to college. So it was kind of like me learning and navigating like on my own, even like getting into college, like, oh, wait, I have to apply, but I can't use like my mom because she's undocumented. Like, who do I put on my taxes? You know, it was like a lot of like figuring it out as I was going.
Mm-hmm.
And since I struggled through that, I was like, well, academic advising is something that I can do to help other kids who were in my same boat. And by
Yeah.
that time, Obama had already created like DACA for like a lot of others, like opened up like a lot of opportunities for students who didn't have it before. So now it became like this new avenue for students to get to college, you know, without having to worry about, oh, there's no money for me, because
Okay.
through that Dream Act they were able to apply, and I was able to like advocate for a lot of kids who thought they couldn't apply. So it just made me really, really happy to see some of those kids and families like really enjoy their journey going to college too for the first time in their families.
So you touched on a couple of things of you being first gen and having to learn a lot of it on your own. And then rather than sort of just sitting in that space of like, all right, now that I understand what to do, it's like, all right, let me just go. I can't just sit with this knowledge by myself. I have to share with others and help others who look like me and who are in similar situations.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
it sounds like from the jump you had the heart of a teacher.
Yeah, and then I just at my high school, I think just seeing like a lot of the inequities, because I have this unique, I guess, situation where I started off not being in like the honors classes, the AP classes in ninth grade when I was in high school. And then they transferred me to honors and all of those things when I was in 10th grade. So I got to see like two perspectives of like sitting in a class where kids weren't getting information, right? Because I don't know, for whatever reason, they think like, oh, you're not an honors or AP, so you must not want to go to college, or for some reason, just slipping in the cracks. And then going to 10th grade, 11th and 12th, and going with all the other kids who were like knowledgeable on like, oh, you have to apply to this, you have to do extracurriculars, and just feeling like it was already unfair even within our community, like separating the kids by like who's worthy of this knowledge, you know.
Right.
And you know, helping my friends out who didn't know any better or who didn't have that um I don't want to say privilege, because it's not even a privilege, it's just information that we should all have a right to.
Right, right. It should be just basically, like you just mentioned, like a basic right, but unfortunately it's not. And so when folks like yourself, who I can't think of another word of like, are not stingy with it, like, look, I've, I'm learning all this and I'm now recognizing how I'm going to be able to pay, whether it be scholarships or grants or whatever, rather than just sit on it and be like, all right, I'm going to keep this for myself and gatekeep. You're like, no, let me share. So that, that whole idea of like, learn one and then teach one. So yeah, that's dope. That's something I can attest to, that you are a person who, when you come to know something, you're not looking just to hoard it to yourself, but you're looking to share it.
Oh
So
yeah.
thank you for that. Yeah. What is keeping you sort of in the work? Because so many, as we know with the pandemic, so many are choosing to leave the profession, but like what's keeping you going? Because it can't be easy. We know it's not easy.
It's not. And I just think to myself, sometimes I think to myself, like, it's actually getting harder to, how do I, like, sometimes I feel like I'm fighting to keep students engaged. And I'm fighting to, like, bring my ideas that I know can possibly work to, like, admin. ideas, as in, what I think is best for some of my students, or like what kind of resources we need. So it gets frustrating and hard for all the reasons that we have no control over. Um, and I think what keeps me like there, I think it's every like small win with like a student or a family or a coworker. Honestly, I used to be an emotional learner as a student, and I think I'm an emotional or like community worker. So if I don't find like an emotional or community connection to the work that I'm doing, I don't feel satisfied, or I don't feel like
Mhm.
I need to keep going. And I'm starting to build that connection with like some of the people that I work with now, but it wasn't like instant, or it wasn't as easy when I did it at my previous job, because like I went in knowing two people at my previous job. Like I started working with two people that I felt connected to, and I
Mhm.
knew they were about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was much easier. So I think what keeps me going is really just that connection and those wins, and just, I guess, in a way, just staying hopeful that things are going to change one day, or hopeful that like every day is like a new day for even my kids. Like
Yeah.
the kid that was struggling yesterday, like, ooh, today he was killing it with the assignment. Or um yeah, just like those like little simple things that I find very rewarding, to be honest.
Yeah.
Mm,
Get the small wins, acknowledge the small wins,
yeah.
bask in those small wins. Yeah.
And just like trying not to be so critical of my work, because like it's very easy to just continue to like be so hard and criticize myself and the work that I do, because like maybe test scores aren't as high as I wish they'd be, or the wins aren't as large as like the state wants them to be. But at the end of the day, there's those small wins which tell me like there's something we're doing collectively okay, or there's some change being made. There's care, there's love, and the kids show it. They show it when they show up for us, and they try and they show us love. So that's what I care about.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Nice. What I forgot to ask, like, cause what is your current position now?
So right now I'm the ELD coordinator for the school I work for, and
Mhm.
a slash teacher.
Okay. So your full day isn't spent in the classroom. It's also helping out, or the responsibilities that you have as the ELD coordinator.
Yes. So
Okay.
my day is broken up into a couple of different roles. So I work as a support person, like in
Hmm.
other teachers' classrooms. So I get to either co-teach or just support with small group
Hmm.
for a couple of periods. I teach my own classes for a couple of periods. As of now, we only have two grade levels in at the school I work at, but we will have 11th and 12th grade. Obviously, we're gonna grow as we continue to like stay open.
Okay.
And I also go do observations with admin,
Okay.
from the lens of a EOD coordinator. So looking for like strategies and things that are related to EL learners, so English
Hmm.
language learners. And then the last part is like coordinator work, which is like monitoring student progress, creating like intervention plans for students who are not progressing, or students who or are considered long-term English learners, and getting them the services that they may need, whether it's through me or sending them to evaluation through like SPED or any other SST processes. So those are like kind of like the different things that and then just meeting with admin to talk about, what implementations and PDs we need to support teachers for the work that we are looking in the classroom. So those are like just a little bit.
And so, knowing that you worked with middle school kiddos for quite a number of years, what's it like now working with high school kiddos?
Ooh, I it's different for sure.
Yeah.
And I think both have like their strengths, like their unique aspects of working with. I think I was talking to my coworker about how like I miss the growth that I'd see in middle school, like the immediate, I don't want to say immediate, but like from one semester to like, or one quarter to the next after having them, just seeing, oh, they grew by like a grade level already or something. And I think at the high school level, it's a little bit more challenging for a lot of different reasons. Kids are older, they've been English language learners for a long time. So what I miss the most about middle school is really and the parent involvement. I thought it was low in middle school, like when I'd have parent conferences or we'd have events, but it's not as low as like working at a high school. And I think I really miss that parent involvement with younger children's families. And I wish I had that with the high schoolers. But it's been a transition in like a both positive and challenging situation where like older kids tend to challenge you in different ways that younger kids don't yet like have the capacity to yet.
Really? In what way? In what way?
Like, I think young children still like I worked with sixth graders before, so there's still kids that kind of see their teachers as like heroes, or like they look up to some of us in sixth grade, and I think in high school it's harder to be as like connected to, like, how do I say this, like they don't look up to you in the same, like you're not as cool anymore, if that makes any sense. So like you have to try.
Yeah.
I don't know. You have to try so many different ways to just get to these high school kids. And it has to be something natural. Like you can't force it either. So that's what comes with being hard. Like whatever your personality is, either they're going to vibe with it or they're just not. And I think in middle school, it's a little bit different where, well, the kiddo is kind of like, they're going to vibe with you because they're just younger. And at that moment, they want that adult connection, And I think the older kids, they're just like, well, they want to be with their friends, and that's okay too, But yeah, it's just like a unique difference.
It's different.
I love working with both though. Like,
cool.
When they tell me like, what do you prefer? I really don't have a preference. Like, I love high schoolers. I love middle schoolers the same. I just love the family involvement in middle school more. Like, I miss working with parents as teams.
A question that I am grappling with as a middle school teacher is knowing that my kiddos, like, they aren't on that track that you mentioned, that when you started high school, like you were on one track and you saw that it was different from then 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, where the track that you were then there in the classes, the vibe was different. The knowledge that was being imparted to the kiddos was different. And one of the things that I don't want to say struggling with, but I'm thinking about a lot lately is how to impart knowledge to the kiddos so that when they get up to whatever high school they go to, like they can recognize like, hey, if what I'm being given isn't of benefit to me, like it sounded like you were a kiddo who's like, yo, I really want to learn. I want to know these things. And when you weren't being given that, you didn't know what you were not being given until you were somewhere else. And so like, I want to empower our kids to be able to like decipher and question and really like critique. If I'm at a school or if I'm even in a classroom where I'm feeling like I'm being undisturbed, how to advocate for that, how to get their voice to be able to speak up, to be like, who do I need to speak to be like, look, no shade to the teacher, but I need to move faster. Or no shade to the teacher, like I really need X, Y, Z. Or if once you get to high school to know like, look, my uncle's a mechanic. I know I don't want to go to university. There's no shade to university, but I really want to go to a trade school, get a certificate, enter this profession, to be able to stand in that and to be able to advocate for themselves in a way that doesn't seem like it's adversarial, if what I'm saying is making sense. Like, because with my middle school kids, like you just said, it's like, because they're younger, they're like, all right, Mr. So-and-so or Miss So-and-so, like, you're so much older than me, but I want to be able to go back and forth with you on this thing and it not be come off like disrespectful, so that by the time you get to high school, like, you had a couple reps in to know how to, like, hey, this is how I'm going to talk to an adult, to be able to say, this is what I need, this is what I need from you, or how to prepare me for whatever.
No, that makes sense. And it's like a hard situation to navigate with, depending on like who they're advocating them for themselves against, you know. There's just so many schools, so many personnel that just take things personally or differently, that it would just be that's why I say how important parent involvement is. And I know it's not always possible, but unfortunately, like, it's just gonna take like a lot of coaching and teach, like, conditioning, or like, no, not conditioning, wrong word, but like teaching or giving them the tools to like code switch when they need to. I know I didn't learn how to do a lot of those things until I was maybe even a 10th or 11th grader in high school. And even then I still didn't feel confident all the time in front of like specific people that I knew had power. So it's just really like teaching them to use the correct tones. You know, it's just I would say it's like a lot of code switching, depending on who they're talking to and how they're talking, unfortunately. But it's a win giving them the knowledge that you're talking about. It's a big win. And I know some schools, like, as early as like, for example, the org I work for, they have college readiness in middle school, where like they're already kind of learning about what SATs are and things like that. And I think it could be beneficial, like, to even talk about trade school within that college. Maybe it shouldn't be called college readiness. Maybe it can be like a course that's just designed to teach you what comes after high school, you know?
Or have the two of like college readiness, but also like career readiness. Because if you're a person who's like maybe I don't want to go to college immediately after school, I want to work, knowing that, hey, I'm not going to have the funds to pay for college, and I don't want to go into debt just to go to college, of knowing like, all right, let me learn a trade, be able to save up save, and then be able to know like, all right, I can now pay for this education that I want to earn. But I think that of just presenting those as options, and like you mentioned, like, the knowledge is the thing that we want to be able to impart to our kids. And even like you were mentioning about like understanding the code switching and whatnot. I know for myself, as a first gen, my parents are from Haiti. There are certain things that if I were to say to them, it's going to be interpreted as disrespect. Whereas when you're at school, it's like me going back and forth with the teacher. If I'm a teacher if I am confident in myself, a kiddo who's having a conversation with me that can look like, even if it's a debate, I'm not going to feel any sort of thing like personally. I'm just like, great, this kiddo is passionate about whatever. He or she, they are really engrossed in talking about this, whatever. However it comes out, I can hopefully coach them and teach them like, hey, kiddo, when you do or when you say this is how it can be interpreted, it may not be what you're trying to communicate, but here's how I personally would go about it. Ultimately, the choice is yours, because you're going to have to live with the ramifications of how you present it. But I would go about doing it this way, to just give the kids, I guess, like you mentioned, those tools, those options to be able to speak a different way, articulate certain things a particular way, so that it can be heard. Because if the person is not receiving it, is not hearing it, then it's like, it's ultimately going to be feeling like it's not worth your time to continuously have this back and forth with a person if they're never hearing you.
And
so
it sucks
that's a skill.
Yeah. And it sucks having to like just be hit in the face with like that experience not like going well, instead of like at least having some kind of preparation. Because I know I didn't do a lot of preparing, and either like I was stuck in a situation where, oh dang, I just have to do this thing that I'm being told, even though I know it's not right, and I'm going with it and it doesn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
Or I tried to advocate in a way that's not productive, and now I'm rude, and I'm like, instead of being interpreted as a passionate move, it's more like, ooh, she was aggressive, she was nasty, you know. And there's so many ways people are going to interpret a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's cultural sometimes. Sometimes it's egos. It's so many different things. And I think just that part of like learning or prepping, or even like a mental health, course, or
Yeah.
something that's helping students cope with like how to navigate some of these situations where it's like it's not personal. You just kind of have to learn how to like do it on your own at some point. We're not always gonna be there holding your hand. And it's an independent learning experience, really, because you're the one that's emotionally going through that experience.
Right. Yeah, and if you present it to the kids, then them having you as a model, I think, speaks volumes. To be able to say like, hey, in my situation, this is how ... happened. This is how I responded to it. And then like you mentioned, you have to have a teacher who is solid in of themselves, that when the kiddo is speaking to them, again, they're not taking it personally, recognizing that, like you just said, this kiddo is really passionate rather than this kiddo is aggressive. And so it's going to be the mindset of the audience as well too. And then just letting our kiddos know, like, look, you can have all the best intentions. You can say it in the perfect tone. You can use the right words. You can be eloquent. And there's still going to be people who are not going to listen to you, who are going to prejudge you, who are going to block you. And for you to know, like, hey, it's not you. Because I think that's something that many of the kiddos that we've been in front of have like internalized, that somehow they are deficient, when in fact, it's like, nah, you're plenty. You got it. It's because of yeah, you're more than. But unfortunately, the person who may be the gatekeeper is doing just that, is gatekeeping, as opposed to, look, kiddos, my job as a teacher is to prepare you to be a contributing citizen of the society that you're about to go into. And I got to give you the tools to know how to navigate all that. And if I'm a teacher who's really about it, then I'm not going to hold anything back. I wanted, as someone has said in the past, of like, I want to plant seeds for a tree that I may never sit under. Like, I would tell my kids, like, look, if I ever have kids, you're going to be the adults that my kids are going to see. I want to make sure that, you're the best, whatever. If it's a doctor, a writer, a lawyer, great. But if it's also a mechanic or a plumber or someone who's doing HVAC, we need those too. Like,
yeah. And I think
it gets cold out here.
Yeah. I don't want to say just the US, but like, at least in the schools that I've worked for, or like just from my experience, it's like a lot of shoving college. And I get it. Like, our goal, like, I think it became this goal because the opportunity to go to college wasn't there for a lot of students in our communities. Like, I get that. Like, they want to give this choice. But the focus is so much on like, what's the percentage of students from your school going to college and staying there, that it's like, well, what about the kids who are doing some of those tech trades, careers? And now there's boot camps. I have a friend who, he went to UCI with us, did his 4-year degree, spend the money that a 4-year degree costs, and then he did a boot camp for software engineering or some kind of computer or IT stuff. And it was like a 3 or 4 month program. Like, it was like a very fast paced boot camp. And it was like a guarantee that you would like go and network and then find a job, a good job. And it cost maybe even like 1 year's worth of 4-year degrees, or maybe even less. So I think there's just so many options now. And I think we're just so stuck on like, oh, just a 4-year, that it's really crippling at some point, because like you said, some of these kids don't want to do it straight out of high school, or they want to see or feel for their options. Now, community college is free for 2 years.
Yeah.
So there's just so many other things, and I think we push it so much because of the numbers,
Mm-hmm.
um, that we lost the actual vision and the goal. Like it was just providing opportunity, but opportunity doesn't mean just one. It doesn't just mean college and getting in debt if that's not what you want to do. Yeah.
Man, you said it. You said it. You said it. So it, a lot in the past, I've been at organizations as well too that have just been like, let's get kids to college, let's get kids to college, let's get kids to college, without then also thinking, how's this kid going to pay for college? When this kiddo gets to campus, do they truly know how to navigate if they're children of color? Like to be at a PWI, to know that, hey, a lot of people don't look like you, how to prepare for that, how to respond to that. And then two, if you are a kiddo who wants to go into a trade, like you just mentioned, or if it's something like the boot camp that you mentioned too, for them to know like, hey, these are options that they can take and take advantage of, so that, yeah, within a year, you then come out and you're earning, you're contributing to society. Or even if it is like, I keep coming back to the mechanic because we had a conversation where another teacher was saying how they took their car in and they could see that the person was stating like, for labor, it was $70 to $80 an hour. And then parts was X amount of dollars. And the person was just like, me as a teacher, as an admin, knowing that I'm taking my car in to get fixed, this mechanic is making more than me.
Oh, yeah.
But that isn't something that or at least for myself, I'm not actively hearing schools like, hey, if you want to set up a business, here's what you would need to do to set up your business. If a mechanic is what you want to be, if a plumber is what you want to be, if it's an electrician, whatever, this is how you would set it up and then go. Or here's how you can go and earn an apprenticeship under someone, learn from them, and then know, all right, a couple of years I can come out, 4 years under them, and then come out owning your own business. All of those are options that I think we should speak more to, because yeah, just going to college in of itself isn't sufficient.
And schools make it so hard for like us educate, or like the system makes it like really difficult for us to like provide some of this information in a way that is valued. And what I mean by that is like we can tell students about all these opportunities, but at the end of the day, how are we going to be evaluated, right? The schools still have numbers to meet, and unfortunately, that's part of the focus. Where I think it should just be preparing, like you said, preparing students to do something productive outside of high school when they're done, you know?
Yeah.
And these opportunities, and as much as these mechanics and all these trade workers are making, it's still not something that's like, how do you say it? Like it's not valued, or it's not, when you compare it to like going to a 4-year university, it's like, why do we put that up here when, like you said, like we have 4-year degrees, but we're not making as much as somebody who didn't get a 4-year degree, and they're providing, they're paying taxes, they're doing everything. And who knows, there has to be reasons why they want to go that route. Like you said, they might be looking up to an uncle, somebody in their family who already has a plug for them.
Exactly.
And we're over here forcing them to do something that maybe is not the best option.
Not the best option for them. It might be the best option for John, Sally, or Shaquan, but like, if Carlos wants to do something, and it's not that, let him do it, or help him and support him so that he knows that he's got the options to do whatever it is that he wants to do.
I just wish it was more appreciated and more like less taboo of like, oh, you only need to talk about college and going to visit 4-year universities. You know, why can't we go visit that tech program and see how they can pay for that, you know?
Yeah.
And talk about those kind of options, or the boot camp, or, you know, how to get it paid.
I think in having these conversations with teachers such as yourself, who are thinking differently, who are wanting to give our kiddos different options, I think that's part of the goal of the podcast as well, is like, if we can get that information out to whomever, hopefully there'll be a parent that hears this. Hopefully there'll be a teacher that hears this and then shares it. Because it seems like there's a lot of information that it's just a matter of just connecting with the right people to be able to get it out there. So that maybe then if the teacher is hesitant to be like, hey, I don't want to be the one giving all this, but hey, kiddo, you should go check out so-and-so. Go check out, listen to this. Here's this link.
And then we have people to connect them with, like I said, my friend who went to UCI with us, or you probably have somebody that that did a trade tech, and just helping them navigate through that. Because unfortunately, like, I wouldn't know how to give like guidance step by step on how to do this, but I know somebody that can come in and talk to the kiddos, or
100%.
Connect them as a mentor. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, if I have a kid that doesn't want to be forced into college, there's absolutely nothing wrong.
I think that's it. It's just the sharing of the knowledge so that it doesn't, so that those kiddos can just make the choices for themselves, or that them and their families can make those choices for themselves.
And these kids are learning a lot of things through like TikTok and all these other things. And it's like, people are getting upset, like, oh, these kids, like, they think they know everything on TikTok, but it's like, the reality is they are learning a lot of hacks and a lot of things that otherwise we wouldn't know, And if that's like the platform that they're getting some of that knowledge from, I mean, it is what it is. Maybe it's like,
as long as they're getting it.
The start of like the research they're about to start making, because that one TikTok told them to go look at tax information, and now they kind of learn on their own,
Yep.
We're not doing it at school. That's the reality.
Right. It is. I agree with you 100%. Wherever the kiddos are able to get it and they're able to critique it and see if it's truly valid so that they don't get swindled or hoodwinked, I'm all for it. Because I think that's the other part too, is like, when you don't know and then you have this other person's like, all right, I know that so-and-so doesn't know, or this group or this community doesn't know, I'm going to look into to take advantage of them. Once you do know, he's like, nah, B, don't do that. Like, don't follow this person when they say to do such and such. In actuality, it should be this. So it's coming from a verifiable or reputable person. That's true. That's it. That part. So many of us were taking advantage of, or the reason why our parents might be hesitant is because they were taking advantage of, and they just don't want that to happen to their kids.
True. That's a good point, Mr. Pierre.
Yeah. I love asking my guests, because there is so much negativity. What is bringing them joy at the moment?
I'm expecting my first baby, so I think I have 3 weeks left. Yes, I have 3 weeks left, and I'm just like very excited and nervous at the same time. But like, I'm excited to see what my baby's gonna look like and be like for this journey. So we'll see what happens.
Sensational! Congratulations! Thank you, Mr. And thinking about knowing that music is such a big thing, is there a particular playlist? Is there a particular artist that you're listening to?
I'm like very old school, so I just listen to kind of the same music. But there is this new Kendrick Lamar song that I don't know when it came out, that Carlos showed me, and it's pretty good. I don't know if it's called Attractive, or something along those lines, but it's pretty good, and I like his music videos, so that's what yeah.
So some Kendrick Lamar. Excellent. Well, folks, this conversation with Miss Morales has been fantastic. There were a couple of things have been dropped in terms of gems of things that I'm hoping that you'll be able to glean from. One of them being, like, do not be a gatekeeper. If you've got information and you can help, please share it. Don't be that person, which is also part of the hope for this podcast of just, if you're a person in education, if you're a teacher, if you're a former teacher, no shade to you. It's very much appreciated of what you've done. And so that you'll be able to share with your kiddos information so that they can be better. And so I'm Mr. Pierre. I thank you very much for listening. She's Miss Morales.
Thank you, Mr. Pierre. Thank you for having me. It was so much fun. And
this was a joy.
Thank you for asking all the good questions.
Asking all them questions. This is another episode of the Chronicles, Chronicles of Mr. And we're out.
We're out.